Feast of Christ the King, or first Sunday of Advent. Inevitably, the 1980s REM classic comes into my head. And I've probably tortured you with it before. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. Comes into my head obviously because both weekends we're looking at the end of the world as we know it. That's where Advent begins. We have this time looking forward, preparing ourselves, watching for the coming of our Lord in glory at the end of time. That's the focus of these first weeks of Advent. It's only when we get to the end of this season, the last days, that we start focusing on the preparation to celebrate the birthday of Jesus, to commemorate his first coming. But since he has already come, that's much less important than preparing ourselves for his coming again in glory. So Jesus tells us, watch, be prepared. You do not know when that end is going to come. This year, a different aspect of the end of the world as we know it struck me though. Advent itself marks the end of the world as it once was known. A world where people walked in darkness, a world where sin reigned, a world where death had the final say. Advent, which marks the beginning of our salvation, put an end to that world. But the question is, are we in that new world? Because there are other options out there. Other new worlds that vie for our attention. Worlds that are going in a completely opposite direction. I made the mistake the other day of posting on Facebook a list of stores that were closed for Thanksgiving. And my remarks about, boy, that's a good thing. Thinking that was fairly innocuous, but boy, made a firestorm. Some people bitterly didn't like that. I don't understand why. But to me, that is a sign of another new world. A brave new world. The image came into my head as I was wandering during the wedding I had yesterday, the 6th straight wedding in a row. And I went back to that novel I read in high school, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. And this fascination with things like Black Friday, our new national feast, seemed to be images of that brave new world. So my main point on a sailing Black Friday starting in the middle of Thanksgiving Day. Not so much that people have to work. Lots of people have to work on holidays. I have to work on holidays. And when I was a kid, I spent 5 straight Christmases working at Burns Row. The point was, what does it say about our priorities? Every year we read the stories of people being injured, trampled, even killed in the rush to get cheap Chinese-made junk. What does that say about our priorities as a people? It wasn't that long ago that people were lining up for stores that open at 6 in the morning. If you want to do that, hey, fine, I'm all for it. Shop till you drop. But when we push it earlier and earlier and make that the focus, isn't that saying that our priorities become things over people? Possessions over family and friends. And what does it say about our commitments to the sorrowful, the suffering, the lonely, the sick, the poor? That was my problem. And Aldous Huxley's have today. For Aldous Huxley's Brave New World was a world centered solely on our own personal pleasure, having the most fun, getting the most we can right here and right now. Because when I was looking for that quote on the computer yesterday, just to make sure I had it right, gone through the chapter and read the part where it talked about the bodies being cremated and the type of ways they were recovering all the gases. So even in death we could be useful. Because that's all there was. We could reuse the gases for those who are still around and the pleasure of. That was it for the individual person. That brave new world is competing for our attention. The Lord offers us an incredibly different version. A new world where we no longer walk in darkness. The people in darkness have seen a great light. A world where people matter over things. A world where we're more concerned about giving ourselves to others than getting for ourselves. Advent, this beginning of a new liturgical year, is a challenge. In what world are we moving forward? Are we moving into that beautiful new world that Advent represents, where light triumphs over darkness? Or are we content to be swept with the crowd, with the herd, into that brave new world, where we might have fun for a while, but in the end, we're just burnt up, and perhaps they can use the gases from our body to continue the fun for others for a while. It is the end of the world as we know it. We have a choice as to which way to go. Now, into which new world?